Hey, good evening. I'm Jeff Watling. I'm the Parks and Community Services Director here with the City of Issaquah, and excited to have you. Excited to be hosting our second public meeting, virtual style, in regards to Blackberry Park. Um, really look forward to this evening. Uh, as with our first virtual meeting, it's certainly better to be face to face, but we believe we can still share and get great feedback from all of you in this sort of virtual arena. Tonight's meeting is being recorded, so it's something that if you have neighbors or friends, contacts that aren't able to join us, they'll be able to view this presentation and also have an opportunity to do an online survey to get feedback. We're really excited. We're so excited from the results of the first meeting. The community feedback we got not only that night, but through the survey really helped to inform what you're going to hear tonight in terms of interests in play and styles of play that you would like to see at Blackberry, other programmatic elements of the park that you so want us to consider as well. It's really lending tonight to just a great opportunity to present some options and some concepts to the community and begin to get feedback. Our partner consultant team from Methuen, as well as Jennifer Fink, have just put together, I think, an exciting evening. I'm going to turn it over to them to certainly run the meeting, but I will be here as well throughout to answer any questions you might have specific to me. Before turning it over to the team, though, I want to introduce Mayor Mary Lou Pauley, and thank you, Mayor, for joining us as well as with some council members as well. But Mayor, welcome.
Thank you, Jeff, and thank you all for coming tonight. It's fun for me to get to drop in. I think I'm here for the first 15 minutes of this one tonight. I'm glad to see people coming and talking about the project and Blackberry Park and what you want to do to it. I had a sneak peek at the work of staff and the consultants. It's exciting. It's fun. Interested in hearing about your feedback later on tonight. I also wanted to welcome former South Cove resident, Council Member Zach Hall, who is currently in the Highlands, and give him an opportunity to say hi this evening.
Oh, sure. Thanks, Mayor Pauley. Hi, everyone. This is Zach Hall. I'm on the City Council now, and like the mayor alluded to, I grew up in South Cove, actually, on the South Cove Park. And as you all know, kids in that area like to travel between the parks and say, "We'll meet you at Blackberry Park. Oh, I'll meet you at Muirwood Park. I'll meet you at Timberwood Park." So I was at the first gathering that you all had, and I thought it was really interesting. So I wanted to circle back and see what's coming up. So thanks for having me.
Thank you, Zach. One of the fun things that Zach did right when he got on council was he quickly educated myself and the others who have not had the opportunity to live in the South Lake Sammamish unit, South Lake Sammamish communities, that there's a lot of different communities in there. And it isn't just South Cove or Greenwood Point, it's lots. So we are now trying our best. If you ever hear us mess up and call it the South Cove neighborhood, make sure you poke us to tell us. We now know it's the South Lake Sammamish community. So thank you for that, Zach. So have fun. I'm going to let them get on with the show, and I'm here for about another 10 minutes or so, and then I'm giving out some awards at another meeting. So have a good night.
Mayor, thank you. Councilmember Hall, thanks so much. Really appreciate your support and you being here. So with that, Jennifer Fink, who's project manager with the City of Issaquah, please take it away.
Thank you, Jeff. Before we get started, I get the fun job of going over some meeting logistics on our new platform. And again, my name is Jennifer Fink, and we are so glad you're here with us tonight for the Blackberry Park meeting tonight. So it is great to see so many people coming out and showing interest in this project. Tonight we're going to do a brief presentation. We're also going to engage in a interactive poll using a polling platform here on this WebEx platform, as well as we'll open it up for some Q&A at the end. As Jeff said, this meeting is being recorded and will be posted to the webpage. And we'll provide a link to that at the end of the meeting. So if you know of someone who can't join us, you can always capture everything in its entirety. And before we get started, if you go to your phone, for those of us who are joining by a computer or a smartphone, you should see some layout options where you can change some of the screen views on your phone. You may also want to locate where you may be able to raise your hand. Also, when we are using the chat, please find where that is at the bottom of this bottom right hand side of your screen. Right there should also be the polling function that you're able to identify. Please keep your sound and your microphone muted until you are called upon. If you are called upon, please introduce yourself for those who may have called in before speaking. And if you have a question that you would like to ask at any point, feel free. We're going to do this as freely as we can. Just in the chat box, just write the word question and we will call on you, or you can type it out and we'll try and answer them in the order in which received. Please, if you use the chat, direct it to everyone so everyone can see what everyone's questions and concerns are and thoughts. Does anyone have any questions at this moment before we introduce the design team and get moving on? Okay, having seen none, it is with pleasure that I'm going to introduce the Methuen team, but just before we do that, I forgot to mention we are going to be hosting an online survey with the exact same information that's presented tonight. That will be launched on Friday, April 30th, and will run through May 9th. So, you know, the information and feedback we get from the polls tonight will be exactly the same questions we're asking of the community, and all of that will be aggregated and shared on the website later. But with that, I'm going to also thank Autumn Monahan from our city administration office tonight for helping me do all the logistics with the online meeting. So our design team, as introduced at our last meeting, is Methuen, and we are so very thankful to have several of their uber talented landscape architects with us tonight. We have Christian Runge, who is the associate principal and project manager for this project, as well as Deb Gunther, who's a partner, and Amelia Jensen, who's a landscape designer. And with that, I am going to pass this off to Deb to kick us off.
Great, thank you, Jennifer, and thanks everyone for being here. We're super excited to continue the conversation that we started the last time with you, and really continue to have more conversation around these concepts tonight. And we're also really pleased to have Chris here from Northwest Play as well. So Chris has been really instrumental in helping us develop these ideas. So we're going to talk a little bit about what we heard the last time for folks that weren't able to attend what we heard from the survey overall, which was great turnout on the online survey. And then talk a little bit about the site concepts and the play stories, which are, what I want to emphasize, are really two separate things. So as we go through it, you'll see what we mean by that. So you can think about this a little bit as a mix and match between the equipment and the literal play experiences and the way we structured around the story. The survey and the feedback it's all going to be fun, but that's probably the really fun part where everyone can kind of weigh in and we can see the real-time feedback tonight. And then next steps, and talk a little bit about the schedule. So really the project started off with these goals, you know, replacing the existing playground to really get one that meets code, really appreciating the work that went in from the neighborhood to build this playground, but recognizing that we need to bring it up to code, and then improving accessibility for similar reasons, wanting to really provide full accessibility throughout the park. and then considering other improvements as we make those improvements in the planning. Great, thank you. And then the next, this is a summary of what came out of the last meeting. So there were 149 responses overall in the online survey that really, again, if you were at the meeting, folks saw the same thing that was at the meeting the last time as well. So the favorite types of play that came out of the conversation were around climbing and perching and really swinging. And so super active and active play was heavily preferred. Favorite types of play structures, we showed a wide range of sizes and types. And so the medium to large was preferred, and then made out of wood or mixed materials. And then other important features, definitely picnic tables were, and seating as well, with benches were on the list. Discovery play, nature play, incorporating art into the play area, and then all ages, so inclusive play. So those were kind of the top important features that came across. So we've incorporated those into the designs you'll see tonight. And then just a little bit of context briefly, and then we'll get into the concepts. So context, those folks are familiar with this. Blackberry Park is really in the center of this, the neighborhood, and but it is very close to Lake Washington. So we think that kind of character, identity of the neighborhood and the connection of the neighborhood to Lake Washington has been inspiring to these concepts. And then this is just a little bit about the existing conditions. There's obviously open lawn there. Some of the pictures on the right show that, a really great trellis that has amazing views to the mountains. And then some of the things we wanted to highlight are the easement that we need to be careful to work around with, because it is a utility corridor easement. And then the Blackberry hedge, which we'll get into some options on that this evening. We know that's really important to the neighborhood. We've heard that loud and clear, that's a wonderful tradition that folks gather around in the summer and pick the berries and look forward to that. One of the challenges is they are Himalayan blackberries, and so they spread with birds, the help of birds, and they're quite invasive. And so the city actually spends a lot, and lots of groups spend a lot to remove those blackberries from surrounding areas. And so we want to talk about a couple of options for how we can continue to provide that berry picking and berry patch experience, but also substitute those blackberries with different species that won't be invasive. And then some of the things we wanted to show here are just what those setbacks that are really required do. So we wanted, there are ways we can integrate play equipment, but we have to be conscious of where these setbacks are. And so this is what this plan is showing, and just wanting to, keep that in mind as we're kind of going through the design. So I'm going to turn it over to Christian to talk through, and Amelia to talk through the site concepts.
Thanks, Deb. So as Deb mentioned, we have a couple play stories we want to share, and as she mentioned, they are related to, but also a separate question compared to the sort of play layouts or the park layout themselves. So when we get to the online survey, we'll be asking different questions about what do you like about this story or that story, but also what layout works best within the park and balances all the other functions and needs of the park too. So just keep that in mind. There's a definite opportunity for us to mix and match and create a final scheme that incorporates the best of all of these ideas. But we want to get these ideas out there, get some excitement going and some energy going around some of these stories. So the first story is called Castor's Castle. And Castor canadensis is the scientific name of the beaver, American beaver. And it is a species that's making a comeback on Lake Sammamish. And so we were really inspired by the idea of this beaver making a comeback on the lake, as well as this idea of how the beaver manipulates its homeland, the industrious ways that it creates beaver dams or lodges for its home. And then that in turn changes waterways and even the composition of forests here in the middle image, seeing this sort of a remnant ghost forest or the chewed up trees from the beaver and the lodge itself. So we started with this concept for Castor's Castle and incorporated that into this first layout that you're going to see. And this features a play area layout that's concentrated on the left-hand side of the screen, which is the north side of the park, not to confuse everyone too much. But the swing area on the left-hand side is close to where the swing and playground is now. The other side of the play area is closer to where the trellis and the old swing used to be. And this features 3 zones for play. It maintains the sport court where it is currently for pickleball and other uses. It reimagines the berry patch as a series of circular planters, keeps a pretty open lawn in the middle of the park. And in this case, because of the arrangement of the setbacks in the play area, this option proposes a new location for the trellis and integrates that within a new accessible pathway that connects through these different play areas. Looking more carefully or closely at the play area, it's broken into 3 different zones. One is the swing zone. The second middle zone is the Beaver Lodge zone for younger children, ages 2 to 5. And the third zone called the Ghost Forest, which is for ages 5 to 10, or any age really. I would climb on that, as well as the trellis and this, what we call a Beaver Dam Pathway, an accessible pathway that's inspired by the meandering Beaver Dam. So we'll zoom into some of these images so you can take a quick closer look. So this is the swing area. Again, this particular piece of equipment is built from a primary structure of wood. It has both individual swings as well as the really popular basket swings allow multiple people as well as multiple generations to swing together, or even just a space to hang out and read a book or talk to your friend on the phone. The next area is this Beaver Lodge area, and this will come up in the survey questions we're going to ask you, but we have a couple different ways that the Beaver Lodge could be translated into a play experience, and we'll ask you what you think the best way, the best approach might be. The left-hand side is a little more abstracted, where it might be a Beaver Lodge log pile, where you can climb up and over and under and through in just about every way you can imagine. Where on the right-hand side, it's a wood hut that you can climb into as sort of a small hut for little children, but you can also climb on top of it. It would be a structure you could climb on top of. It might be about 4 to 5 feet tall maximum, so it doesn't take up a lot of space or have a lot of presence on the site. So it's an opportunity for more make-believe and imagination mixed with motor skills and play. And then finally, the Ghost Forest area. There are 2 different ways we can approach this. The one on the left-hand side is a combination of log climbers and a slide. And so all the vertical logs are sort of painted white or gray to kind of reflect that remnant forest in the pool that you see around it. And that blue pool could be in some strategic way used as poured-in-place rubber, which is a more durable surface that could reflect that sort of watery environment you would find the ghost forests and the beaver ponds. And also is a lot more accessible than mulch, which can be accessible, but is, as everyone probably knows, is not the greatest surface for that. So it provides that opportunity if we want to try it out. This would be an opportunity to climb and balance and use steppers up to a slide that you can go down. And the right-hand side is a slightly different approach, using a net climber with vertical poles. And this is a more abstracted sort of beaver's nest that allows children to kind of climb and perch in a much more of a net type environment and a very open and transparent type environment. So I'm going to hand it over to Amelia to talk about the next story. And then just remember, we're going to come back to the survey, and in the survey, we'll have these images up again for you to take a look at them when we ask these questions. So go ahead, Amelia.
Yeah, thanks, Christian. So our second play story is based around the Kokanee Salmon, which, as many of you may know, is a special type of salmon that has been native to the Lake Sammamish watershed for thousands of years. But it's become very rare over the past century. They're a form of sockeye, but they're smaller, and they spend their whole lives living between the lake and its tributary streams. So they spawn in these really small creeks in the foothills around Lake Sammamish. Active runs recently have been noted in Tibbetts Creek, and Ebright Creek, Pine Lake Creek, Laughing Jacobs Creek, and also Lewis Creek, which is right in your neighborhood, less than half a mile west of Blackberry Park, which is really cool. They were once the most abundant fish in this watershed. They were very important for the Kokanee tribe. And recently, the county, tribes, and a lot of community members have been working to restore the Lake Sammamish Kokanee runs in several streams, including Issaquah Creek. This has been detailed recently in a documentary some of you may see called Spawning Grounds. It's pretty cool. You should check that out. So this play story is inspired by that journey and is a tribute to this important work that folks are doing in the community and the amazing little redfish and their spawning journey across between the lake and the foothills. So this plan really, just as opposed to the other, really elongates that play story along this rubber stream, which children can follow from the lake swings through a sequence of several play areas. There's a nature play dry creek bed, the little redfish school area, and these foothill mounds. This all wraps around a large open lawn that's circled by a walking path connecting back to the sidewalk on each end, and it incorporates the existing trellis in the same location where it is currently. As you can see in this option, in order to accommodate this expanded play area and this large lawn, this option does remove the existing sport court. So again, one of those trade-offs that we're going to be talking about in the survey section. So getting a little closer here, you can see 3 of these play areas. There's that informal nature play creek bed consisting of rock logs and native plantings. There's the redfish school area, which is designed for children ages 2 to 5, and the foothills play area designed more for children 5 to 12. So getting a little closer here, again, we've got the same swing. We really like this set because it's got a good mix of swings with that big basket swing, as in the other concepts. So this is where we start at the lake and then follow that stream up to Little Redfish school area. So again, we've got a couple of different options for how we might express that. So the fish climber hut is a milled wood fish-shaped structure that we painted to look like a Kokanee salmon that can be crawled inside as well as climbed on top of. And then the fish pod, so this would be sort of similar in scale, maybe a little bit shorter but longer than the Caster's Castle little beaver lodge that we were looking at. So this is probably about 4 feet tall, I think. So the other option for this area is the fish pod climber, which is a little bit more abstracted. This kind of looks like the fins or scales of the fish, but both of these options offer opportunities for climbing with lots of porosity for visual access, safety, and visibility. Both of these options also incorporate these cool little fish bouncers that are on springs, so children can kind of hop between them or ride on them. And these are also really fun for all ages. In the foothills play area, we also have 2 options. In the first, the mounds are a little bit taller. So these are all play mounds made with artificial turf, which is a really great surface for kind of climbing and rolling and playing on. It's a really, we've done projects with these before where, you know, there's nothing on them and kids are still all over them. I don't know if anyone's ever been to the playground near the Space Needle that was built a few years back, and they've also got play mounds. They're just really super fun. You'd be surprised how fun they can be, and they're even more fun when you can accessorize them with some cool climbers and steppers. So again, in this first one, we've got a little bit taller mounds. So this one is up to, I think this dock is at about 5 feet. in the air. So that gives us a good amount of height to be able to get a cool, big climbing net to get up to the dock or to the deck, and a decent sized slide to get down it, as well as a few other little climbers and things scattered throughout the other mounds. In the second option, we've got lower mounds, so the max height is about 3 feet, but we've got a much more expensive kind of dock system that it's sort of a fishing dock that's spanning all 3 of the mounds. And this also incorporates other kind of steppers and climbers, giving lots of opportunities for climbing up and down and engaging with this kind of cultural component of the history of fishing for the Kokanee salmon. So the trellis that's existing on site, we know is very important to the neighborhood. It was a community project, and it's a great structure. And as we know, the only problem is that stone paving is not an accessible surface, and there's also no path to access it. So in both concepts, we're proposing a new path and ADA accessible paving surface with a new table and seating. In the Redfish concept, we are keeping the existing trellis maintained in the same location. And in the Caster's Castle concept, we're showing a new trellis in a new location. So this one is designed a little bit to integrate more with the play concept with this curved shape that kind of wraps around the play area and provides a nice place for folks to sit and engage with the play, but also expanding on those existing views that are framed by the current trellis. Another difference that Deb brought up earlier between the two concepts are how we handle the berries. So as Deb mentioned, those existing blackberries we know are extremely popular. People enjoy picking them. It's a social event in the summers. We also know that Himalayan blackberry is an invasive plant that gets spread by birds from plantings like this one all around the region, and they're degrading natural habitats that support animals like the beaver and the Kokanee salmon. So we really wanted to look at how can we achieve that same social access and that annual summer event with berry picking without spreading these weeds. So as Christian brought up, for the Caster's Castle option, we have these circular planters. These kind of mirror the play area geometry in this concept, and they could contain a variety of different types of berries, including these native blackberries that are actually native to our area and non-invasive and wonderful for habitat. We could do huckleberries, we could do raspberries, and there's tons of other non-invasive species that we can look at with the community to decide what makes the most sense. So these circular planters make it easier to access the berry patches also from all sides rather than having a mass of planting. Another way to do that and organize the planting is with the trellis system. So organizing them into rows, having access to both sides of that row, and having that oriented towards the street, make sure that it's super open and visible throughout all of those rows of berries. So with that, we're going to move into the survey portion. We're really looking forward to hearing your thoughts and everything you have to say. So Christian?
Thanks, Amelia. So we're going to touch on these survey questions, and just a reminder that there may be a question here that there's not an answer that in the multiple choice. And so that's going to be a perfect opportunity to add that answer to the chat box or save it for conversation at the end. So we'll use this to kind of get the initial flavor, initial feedback, and remember that we're going to have a chance to talk through these in more detail. We have plenty of time to talk about the options and consider other things that we've missed or other ideas that you may have to consider. So with that, we'll jump on in. Are you ready, Jennifer?
Yeah, I just wanted to add one thing, that also our very last question is an open-ended question. So you can also add it there as well. But yes, if everyone could also take a moment and locate your polling on your phone. It's near your chat and participants button. I am going to now open the first poll for your input. We have 5 minutes set up on the time, but don't feel you need to use it all. If we get a response, then I will go ahead and publish just what our community poll results are here. So with that, here goes the first survey.
So just a quick reminder, this question is just about the play story about Castor's Castle versus the Little Redfish. And just as also another reminder is that we're going to have a separate question about the layout and with regards to the overall park, the berries, the sport court. So this is specifically about which story do you think is most fun? Do you think would be the most fun to engage with your own children or other children you know in the community? Reflects the community's ethos or how you feel about Lake Sammamish. So just think about that in those terms for this particular question, and we'll get into some more detailed questions about it coming up. And yes, you can choose both. That won't help us very much, but that's okay too. We like them both too.
Looks like we've got about 8 people who've taken it so far. Has everyone answered? I'll go ahead and close the poll here. And I will show you results. Is everyone seeing that?
Cool. Some definite interest in Castor's Castle and some no answers. That might have been me because I didn't want to, you know, weight the polls too much. But
we do have a few staff I know that likely did not answer.
Okay.
So
we'll go on to the next one. So this is a little more specific question about the play structures. So we're in the Ghost Forest area of Castor's Castle, and we would like to know what type of climber element do you find to be most interesting and most fun that you would like to see in this particular area of the playground?
And for those of you who may have just joined us, we are taking an interactive poll. So if you want to take a second and find the poll option. I know you missed some of the presentation, but we'll still take your vote. Okay, we still have a few who haven't added their poll, but even if you like the other concept, still feedback on this is very helpful to us. So even if you prefer the other concept, we would still like to know which of these two options are preferable because that will help inform the design as we continue to move forward. So looks like we're closing down on the number of people. So I'm going to go ahead and close the poll here and publish the results.
Great, we got 33% for the log climber and 17% for the net climber. It's really great feedback. These types of results and the online survey results have just been really amazing to kind of help us understand the opinions of a wide number of people that you might not typically see at one community meeting. So it's really helpful to hear that.
Yeah.
We go to the next one. Similar type of question here. So this is the Beaver Lodge area, an area that's sort of intended for children that are a little bit younger, ages 2 to 5, not exclusively, but it's a little bit more of a scaled down structure for that age group. provides a little bit more seating in an edge condition with benches and logs to really provide a little bit more of a container and a place for adult supervision as well. So this area could be more of an open log pile beaver lodge that's a little bit more similar to the ghost lodge, or it could be a different type of structure made out of milled wood into more of a kind of an artful interpretation of a beaver lodge hut that you can both kind of climb inside and play imaginative games as well as climb on top of as a smaller scaled structure. So let us know what you think about these and if you have a preference or between the two or like both or neither.
Anyone else have any further thoughts on this? There we get a couple more here. Okay. We only have 9 questions total, so hang in there. We're not going to waste all the evening on taking a poll. We'll get into some fun conversation here. So here we go on the results.
Cool. A little bit of a interest, stronger interest in the log pile versus the wood hut. That's really good feedback. Kind of integrates nicely with interest in the ghost forest as well. So yeah, we can go on to the next one. This would be very similar question. So what's your favorite group of structures for the foothills concept for the ages 5 through 10? So as Amelia mentioned, this is sort of asking, would you be more interested in taller mounds with hillsides or steppers, or more lower mounds that could have a structure like a dock element attached to it that have play elements associated with it as well? Kind of a different approaches to the foothills concept.
We really need to figure out how to get some music playing during this poll time. You really don't want me singing. So, okay. Looks like we're about the number to close. So I'm going to go ahead and close this poll and publish the results. And again, remember everyone, these results and these questions will be on the online survey. This is just for fun and sake of conversation for this evening.
Great. And then it looks like more of an even split between these two concepts. So we could, if folks have thoughts about this when we get to Q&A, let's definitely talk about that and weigh some of the pros and cons. But certainly, these elements can be pretty. They're fairly similar group of elements that could be modified and mix and match to some degree to capture the best of both if we are interested in that. So. Everyone should be pros by now on this. So we're back again into the ages 2 through 5, the younger children's space, looking at 2 different options, the Redfish wood climber and hut versus the Redfish pods, the more abstracted sort of fin and scales piece. And remember that the sort of other smaller elements around it could really work with either one, the wood, the fish, spring steppers, and other elements can really work with either. So let us know what you think about these two ideas for ages 2 through 5 and younger children.
Okay, has everyone voted? I'm going to go ahead and close the poll here and publish the results.
Redfish pod climber, slightly edging out the wood hut climber. So again, pretty interesting. Maybe it's so far a little bit less interest in the sort of milled wood elements versus some of these more abstracted opportunities. So that's definitely an interesting trend. Okay, so now we're going to look at some of these other park related variables, and the first one is the trellis again. So this kind of looks at both, as Amelia mentioned, the idea that in one scheme, the Redfish scheme really works with keeping the trellis in the same location it is now, the same structure, just with the new paving surface below it to provide accessibility. Whereas the Caster's Castle option, because we kept the sport court in place and preserved as much lawn as we could while expanding the play area, it kind of took over that current spot of the trellis, and we looked to integrate it in a new way into the play area. So it's a new location and a new design with an accessible surface below.
And I would just clarify that you can also vote based on keeping the trellis or having a new trellis separate from which scheme it's connected to. So just wanted to clarify that.
Okay, I think we got our answers here. I'm gonna go ahead and, oh, I think we're done now. Okay. I'll go ahead and close the poll and publish the results.
Interesting, yeah. So definitely a little bit stronger interest in looking at a new location and new design, or one or the other, as it relates to this choice. And we can talk a little bit more if anyone has thoughts in the Q&A or some nuances to that response. We'd be eager to hear it. And that certainly, of course, works well with the caster scheme that was also had a little bit more of a preference to. So that sort of arrangement will be interesting to talk more about if folks have thoughts. So I think we have maybe one or two more here we're going to go to regarding the park as a whole. And we already talked about this for the berry patch. So in this case, as you can see, the spatial impacts of these two schemes aren't that different. But if we're just asking you to think about, are there any are berry planters or a berry trellis or a little bit more interesting to you? And in this case, the Caster's Castle is more of a planter arrangement for berries that you can kind of move around versus the trellis, which is a little bit more organized and kind of streamlined, doesn't use as much space in this particular case. So if any of these are interesting to you, or both or neither, and again, we'll welcome comments in a few minutes here. And again, in both cases, the types of berries, as Amelia mentioned, could be incorporated into either scheme pretty readily.
Okay, I think we got everyone's answers on that. Oops, I got somebody in progress here. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and close this poll and share the results.
Great. Just a little bit more of an interest in the Caster's Castle idea. And again, I think we'll be interested to hear from you if you have other reactions, comments to this topic. So we'll get to that in the QA. We have one more question, and it's sort of like the big final question. And that's looking at the site plan as a whole, looking at all the different features we've talked about so far tonight. Which site plan has a better balance of play area and park amenities? And again, this is could be A, B, or both, or neither. But it's important again to remember site plan A, which features Caster's Castle at this point, has a new play area. It retains the sport court. It has a new trellis location and about 3,000 square feet of lawn and about 3,000 square feet of play area and 10,000 square feet of lawn. Site plan B, also a new play area. It's about 5,000 square feet, so it's a little larger. It removes the sport court, but the trellis is able to stay in place with just new accessible paving. And it has about 8,000 square feet of lawn, so a little bit larger square footage of lawn. Or I'm sorry, a little bit smaller square footage of lawn overall. Sorry to get that mixed up. So take a look at both these schemes and let us know if you think one of these or both or neither sort of balances the sort of activities that already take place at Blackberry and can be enhanced or maintained at Blackberry Park.
I think most everyone has voted here, so I'm going to go ahead and close the poll and publish the results here.
Great. So pretty clear preference for at least between the two plans towards site plan A, which I'm going to probably just go on a limb and interpret as desire to keep the sport court. So we can talk a little bit more about that in the Q&A and discuss those options and sort of why that plan resonates more than the others. It may be related to other questions too, or other parts of the play area. And then, so I think we can open up the Q&A. I just want to note a couple trends that we were seeing, and if anyone else on the design team wants to chime in, feel free. It seemed like there was a definite interest in more of a wood type material and specifically log based material, which I guess isn't too surprising because the existing play structure is sort of a round log structure. So it kind of has that historic connection, but also kind of an interest more abstracted play equipment versus literal play equipment like the literal lodge or the literal fish. So that's kind of an interesting trend there that we can take a look at and talk more about. I think an interest in the pretty strong interest in the new trellis location that feels like it's integrated into the play area. And does anyone else on the design team have any other thoughts or reactions to the polls there thus far, or can open it up to questions and comments?
I think going to questions and comments would be great.
Great. Jennifer, have you been getting any chats and direct chats to you? I don't think I've seen.
Let's see here. I've got a couple. I've got one in the little red salmon option. Would you preserve the mature grape plants? So that is assuming the trellis stays in the same location. I think to answer that, we'd have to see how that works with paving or if we were able to relocate them. They would likely need a pruning, but I think we would try and save them for beauty and also for cooling as part of the shelter, if we certainly can. And then the other question is, does the community want to get rid of the pickleball court? And I also see we have a comment, another person who would like to make a comment. So I think we could go to the pickleball question. Does the community want to get rid of that?
I'm not sure, Jennifer or Jeff, do you want to talk, I think, more whole, like big picture about the pickleball in this neighborhood in some way?
Yeah, so right now here at the city, we are looking at striping several pickleball courts at 3 different locations within the city, one of them being at Muirwood Park. I think that work is actually supposed to take place in May, and Muirwood Park is not far.
Quick question, Jennifer. I know it's just out of place, but how are you guys going to do that at Muirwood Park? Are you guys going to do it like South Cove did it in the first place, or are you going to put 2 courts on each side of the actual tennis net and then put portable nets for pickleball? Because a pickleball net is lower than a tennis net, and not that I'm a professional pickleball player, but I play at Blackberry pretty much every day, and I have for years. I've lived in the neighborhood for 37 years of my 47. So I mean, it's great. More courts are great. Love it. Just because there's lots of people that want to play. But if it's not painted correctly, then it's kind of a moot point. That's why South Cove changed the way they're doing their second court painting for the pickleball court this year, and doing 2 courts on one, and then bringing in portable nets. So it actually makes sense.
Hey, Jeremy, this is Jeff Watling. Thanks, Jen. I'll interject. Yeah, we're going to do it right. So as we're looking at doing this at 3 locations throughout town, this would not be utilizing the existing tennis court. This would be striping official pickleball, 1 on either side of the tennis court, and then allowing for portable pickleball nets. So
Perfect.
Yeah, we really see there's opportunity, there's need for creating versatility on those tennis courts, those court spaces, but also a real interest in pickleball. To the original question from the survey tonight, we have no interest in removing the pickleball court. This, as we're exploring options and really thinking trade-offs, we want to hear from you. We really want to hear from those in attendance and also from the survey folks. If there's interest not only with what's going to go on with Muirwood, but keeping pickleball here at Blackberry, then we want to know that and develop a park concept that makes sense to keep it based on that. But just real quick, Jeremy, I mean, based on at least the survey we heard right now, I think what we're seeing from the response of this last survey question, I think there's interest from the community in keeping the pickleball court.
Sure, and I agree. I even sent something to Jennifer, but we have people that live in the community that would even pay to expand the pickleball court and then resurface it so we could have 2 courts going side by side, going east-west versus north-south, and actually be able to have 2 courts there, and maybe adding another basketball court or basketball hoop so you could actually play full court basketball there, sort of on a smaller court. There's not a lot of spaces in South Cove or the South Lake Sammamish neighborhood that has a basketball, hoop, or, actually has pickleball places to play. And so, or tennis for that matter. But I mean, I guess South Cove does and Muirwood does, but we just wanted to see it grow a little bit. And we have people in the hood that would actually fund it. We don't care. I mean, we have, extra money to buy Rolexes, so why couldn't we, pay for concrete? That's a joke, but it's true. We play there that much that we would love to have 2 courts there. So, and our kids play there, and all of our houses back up to it. We walk through the fence. We don't drive there. We just walk there. So.
No, it's a great space. Really appreciate that feedback. And again, our desire in showing these options is to really show options on how we can strike that right balance, right? To meet a wide variety of community needs and interests here at the park, modernize it, update it, make a more functional lawn space, but also realize it's a pretty constrained space when you look at setbacks and the like. So thanks for the question.
And, you know, and Mr. Kinzer, who owns pretty much all of the southeast corner of that park, I know that he was the one who actually poured that pickleball court and basketball court years ago, and that's his old hoop from his old house. And since I'm a part of his compound, I'm sure that he'd, you know, work with you guys too with those setbacks to make sure that park is cool. He did it in the first place many years ago with all the kids' handprints there on the side of the court, if you've looked at it. So my hand's there too.
Cool, thanks. Other questions?
Yeah, I think Brad Book. Brad, if you want to unmute yourself and ask your question.
Yeah, thanks, Jen. Basically, I'm not from the neighborhood, for any of you that don't know that, but I am the park chair, and that's one of the main reasons I'm here to enjoy this tonight. I just kind of have two things that I wanted to make a comment on. One is, it's been a while since I've been to that park, but as I recall, it's got a gazebo there that actually that's covered. And I guess first of all, is that correct? I think that's correct. If it's not, let me know.
It's not.
It's
not covered.
Okay.
No, it's just a grape arbor.
Okay.
The trellis that we've referenced, Brad, is the one structure on the site.
Okay. So I just didn't want to lose a covered area in case some of the people in the neighborhood like to hang out underneath the rain, and whether or not that need to be a consideration to have a covered area, you know, as a part of the trestle area there. I don't know, that's just one thing that I'd put out there. The other thing is kind of looks like Castor has kind of won the day, and I kind of like that design as well. Kind of miss out a little bit on Kokanee, because I really am interested in that effort, and given the placement of that, I think that's a good story to also integrate. So I guess I would just potentially make a suggestion. Is there a way of combining the two just a little bit? And it even could be through interpretive signage, perhaps, or some artwork in combination of that. We actually talked about maybe some integration of art and integrating art and interpretive signage there with a Kokanee story might be something that could kind of merge both the Castor and Kokanee concepts. And so that's what I had to add for this evening.
Thanks, Brad. Those are great suggestions. Luckily for us, we picked two animals that live in kind of the same environment, so it wouldn't be too much of a stretch to to have them come together in some way. So we'd be excited to kind of test that out and explore it.
We did get a question. If the sport court is saved, would it be repaved? And I think that is one of the things as we look at the overall park and how far our existing dollars do. Likely at some point, yes, it would need to be repaved and resurfaced and properly lined. But how and when that gets done as part of this overall project, we would just have to see what our dollars can accomplish.
Yeah, the pickleball court is about 10 inches of solid concrete, and it's in really good shape.
That is great to know. Thank you. Did you have an additional comment, Jeremy? I see your hand is still raised. Is there anyone else that has any questions or comments they would like to make? Please feel free to put it in the chat or unmute yourself. I see Kim Clark. Do you have a question, Kim?
Yeah, well, first I was just going to say, I think that you guys have done an incredible job of both respecting the area and trying to reflect that in your designs, and just also trying to address people of all ages. So I think that's pretty awesome. So thank you. I think that, you know, part of what Jeremy is commenting on is the court is, well, I don't play. I think it's awesome that it's addresses some of the older teens and the adults, because I always do see people there. And I think, you know, I have a young teen, and one of the things she loves about the current structure is that they just play where, you know, they don't touch the ground. It's some hot lava game or something. And so I think with your first proposal, that had more of that potential to be able to play for some of those older kids, where they kind of jump from one thing to another and try not to touch the ground. So I think, you know, obviously it depends on the execution, but as you're doing these, even some of the things that are for younger kids, when the younger kids aren't there, I think some of the older kids can enjoy. And so you were really thoughtful about it, and I just appreciate that.
Could I add a comment as
Thank
well?
you for that.
Sure.
Can I add something?
Sure.
Okay, so in the Caster's Castle concept, you've got the trellis that extends further to the south than the existing grape arbor in order to accommodate this sort of perfect concentric circle of play structure. Is it possible that you could keep the existing grape arbor where it is and still accommodate your, children's play structure out in front, and that is to the south of the existing grape arbor, and achieve, you know, the goals that you're trying to achieve there with the Caster's Castle concept? I mean, does it need to have this great big concentric circle shape to it? I mean, can you make it an oval or some other geometric size that would accommodate the play structure, but allow the existing grape arbor to remain where it is and the sport court to remain where it is?
Martin, that's a great comment, and totally well taken. We can continue to study it. In fact, one of our original sketches for this particular scheme was really close to what you're describing. And I'll just share that, just in full transparency, the one reason why we leaned away from that, in addition just to providing everybody with an option that's sort of different than what's there now, is that we felt like when it was in the original location, it sort of was right in the middle of the playground, and might be a lot of activity, say, between the swings and the ghost forest. There's like a desire line to go between those, of course, meandering as well. And so it seemed like it might be a little bit kind of in that path. But that's not necessarily saying that's a fatal flaw, but that was one reason why we decided to test out an option where we moved the location and tried to pull all of the play structures together along a single path. So that's just some of the thinking we had there, but I think your point's well taken, and we might want to look at that as an option for our final design.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Who else has any questions or comments? We have plenty of time. Would love to hear more feedback on these ideas.
Maybe just a quick question to pose to folks if we have a little bit of lull here, and we don't have to spend the next 20 minutes talking about this, but I am curious, since there have been comments about the sport court, whether there's even a desire for more hard court play. We saw in the last community workshop and in the online survey that there was seemingly an interest in expanding the playground at the expense of a lawn. So there are a lot of interest in more play in general, more hard court. And at some point that starts to eat away at some of the lawn space, which also provides some play use as well. So I'm curious if folks have thoughts about the current use of the lawn and whether that's sort of a lower priority than the sport court or the playground, or whether there's still sort of kind of a balance of all three that's maybe the more appropriate approach here. Any thoughts on the lawn and how it could be used at looking at these types of concepts?
I think the lawn is mostly used for dog walkers and occasionally a little softball game, but the sports court is used more than anything else.
I'll add to that. This is Kim Clark. I'm one of the dog barkers, and I would be fine seeing less lawn. I don't tend to see more people on the lawn. You know, it's too small for a game of much. You know, maybe there's going to be someone throwing a ball or something, but now with there being a dog park that's sort of in the future, I mean, even if there weren't, frankly, we just don't need that much lawn. And I'd much rather see it used either for the older teens and the adults, or just for more, because I see the kids on structures and I see the teens on the court. So I'd be happy to give up lawn for that.
Great, thanks for that input.
I think one question, is there anything we're missing that isn't shown in any of these concepts?
I don't know how to raise my hand.
Well, just go ahead and speak.
Hey, hi.
Hi.
My name is Todd Rao. I'm a resident of the community. Thanks, Jennifer. I was just wanting to comment on the sports court. I listened to several people speak about it. I think it is a very valuable part of the park. I think it's, as we've heard, it's widely used. If you talk about some expansion of it, I think that adds some value. When you were asking about any other items that, or maybe amenities that would add to that, on the Caster's Castle rendering, I think and I'm late to the meeting, and I apologize for that, but or there are some opportunities for some tables or some structures or some benches. Was that incorporated, or was that originally talked about? And I apologize if I'm asking a question that was already raised.
You're on mute, Christian.
Welcome to my world, Christian.
We're all learning the mute button.
Still on mute for some reason.
Oh. There you go, Christian. You were muted.
Okay, good. Okay.
We missed that whole thing. Try again.
I forgot what I was going to say. Just kidding. No, that we do have benches incorporated into both play concepts. And for instance, yeah, so this one, there's sort of a section of bench, a curving bench that sort of is around the middle play area, and then one that sort of is associated with the Ghost Forest that maybe could be dual, kind of two-way seating, that's dual seating for folks that are taking a rest after a pickleball game or something like that. So we had that kind of idea. And then each trellis option, we're thinking about the idea of adding a picnic table to that more accessible surface. So we have a couple different things we're exploring there to keep both bench seating, multi-purpose bench seating, and picnic table.
Well, perhaps there would be an opportunity to take just a little further look at as it relates to the sports court area, especially with the pickleball approach to it. I know that we can do basketball on it as well, but from a pickleball perspective, it's becoming somewhat spectator, and it is a gathering place. So maybe there's an opportunity. We have that little table and a bench that there's now, that maybe there's an opportunity for some of those more permanent power coated tables that kind of run the perimeter of it, that allow for the interaction, because that's the pickup game of pickleball. People are rotating in and out. They'll need a place to sit, have their beverage, or lay their gear or something. If that's going to be an integral part of that, you may want to consider contemplating some of those other amenities that make that more enjoyable, or having a better access to viewing and hanging out. Just a thought.
That's great thought, great feedback, actually. We're interested, I think, in trying to provide those types of amenities, and the more we can get dual use out of those types of spaces to both for folks that are hanging out on the looking at their children on one side, getting ready to play pickleball on the other,
Yeah.
the better use we'll get out of the smaller space. So
Yeah, it's a small space, like you said, it's pickup. It's always been a pickup space. It's a pickup to do a holiday event, whether it's doing egg toss or sack races. It's a pickup to gather and teach the younger people the game. It's a pickup to watch the kids play on the the swing structures, play areas. So I think and people often picnic there. The community that's part of that, and having some of that thinking in there, I think would add.
great, thank you. Yeah, we'll definitely take a close look at that.
Yeah, I think that you'll find that everybody will participate. We're all willing to help. I know there's several people that are on the call tonight that were part of the original group of us that raised I think we're close to $70,000 just to get it started, and it's been part of our spirit, part of our hearts, part of our people and our community, and we want to continue to do that. We can, like I heard Jeremy talk about, supporting and fundraising, and there's collaborative approaches that are easily accomplished in this community. And if you need some support that way, we'd be more than happy to rally around that cause. I would venture to say that we would be overwhelmingly surprised at the support that we could receive. So we're grateful that you're considering the things that you're doing. We're grateful not to have to cut the lawn anymore. Thank you very much. And I know it's not always easy trying to please everyone. So thank you for your time.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome.
I have another comment.
I've got a couple of comments in the chat box if you can hold just real quick. I was going to
Okay.
read those and then we'll come back to you. How about that?
Okay.
I just wanted to share that we do have support for what Martin was asking. It would be great to integrate the playground around the current trellis. So we'll definitely take a look at that. Also, Pablo has a question he would like to ask. So Pablo, if you can unmute yourself and go ahead and speak, that would be great.
Yeah, I'm a community resident. Thank you for hosting the conversation. I'm definitely see a lot of things in both designs that appeal to me. For example, the bigger lawn in the Castro design. I can picture sort of the utility of kids playing like soccer games or something there. But I think, and in the salmon one, the loop, I can also see some value in having a loop where kids can sort of scooter around in a circle without going having to to go too far down the road. But ultimately, I think the thing that resonated most with me is the idea of actually less lawn space and more play structure. Because to everyone's point, as much as the idea of the lawn appeals to me, I actually don't see people using the lawn space really at all. And so I think one thing to consider in the Castro design is actually, I think the Castro design has 10,000 square feet of lawn space, if I remember correctly, versus 8,000 for the salmon, unless I got it backwards. And I think, that's if you consume another 2,000 square feet for play area, you'd have an equivalent amount of lawn still, relative to the salmon story design. So anyhow, I think in general, more play area allows for more kids to use the space for longer, to get more versatility out of the space and be able to stay there longer with it before they sort of get tired of it.
And one thing we might find, based on our early studies of this caster's option with the trellis in the same place, is that it pushes that beaver lodge into the lawn space a little bit more. So it does shrink down to maintain the trellis in the same place, kind of have a general scheme like you're seeing here, would consume and maintain the sport court, would push into the lawn. But it sounds like we're hearing that that's the right kind of balance, which we can definitely study a little bit further and kind of right size.
Yeah, and one other comment. Sorry, I stopped before I remember my second comment, which is around the blackberries. I don't see a lot of value in the personally. I don't see a lot of value in blackberries. There's blackberries all over the neighborhood. It grows literally invasive weed. So, you know, designating space specifically for the blackberries, like the blackberries will come. The blackberries will come whether you designate space for it or not. So I wouldn't consume space with a blackberry. That's my personal opinion. I would certainly, the community may have differing.
Well, great. Thank you for that. Thank you for your comments there. Certainly some good points for us to consider. Just wanted to add, we did receive one more comment. If you add more things, we'd love to see raised platforms like there is now. The monkey bars are a hit too. So just throwing that out there. And then I believe, Martin, was it you that had another comment you would like to make?
Well, up in the very northwest corner, northwest of the existing playground equipment, it's sort of a dead zone up there, and there's a little bit of a bench that we salvaged 15 years ago, but I think that would be a really great spot for parents to sit and watch their kids as they're playing on the playground. I wonder if there's any way to incorporate that little corner area that's right next to the fence, to build some better seating, and maybe even, I don't know, some shelter from the sun, picnic areas, just an area for people to sit against that fence at the northwest corner.
Our only constraint is the setback, which we've had conversations in previous meetings about how to work around that. And their vertical structures are constrained in that area, but certainly like benches, lower elements could be in the mix. And there, of course, I think was brought up last time, there's sort of this, it's a community park. It has a residential zoning. Are there ways we can kind of negotiate and work with that? But I think that point's well taken, and something that we were kind of looking at as well. The kind of those sort of spaces on the edges need to have a little bit of something to give them a reason to be. And so that's a great thing to point out, and we'll keep that in mind and keep that conversation going around those elements.
Sure. In the summertime, it gets really hot out here. It has a huge southern exposure, and a lot of parents like to sit in the shade while their kids are out playing. So having some bench seating next to the fence would be great. And that would take a little bit of a civil engineering design, because there's some grading, the soil really drops off. There's quite steeply right alongside the fence in that area.
That's a great point. So thank you for sharing that. As an area that needs some activation.
Mm-hmm.
I got another comment here. I think the lawn space is important, even if it's used as frequently as other elements. It allows for spontaneous pickup and play games. My kids have always used it for imaginative play, lemonade stands, etc. As kids in the other kids in the neighborhood have also. So that's a great point that I think we all recognize there's value in leaving some lawn. Just a matter of how much. So that's great. We're coming up on 7 minutes. We don't need to stay if everyone feels they have exhausted all of their comments. Again, tonight's presentation and recording will be posted on our website on Friday. The survey that we took, we will be launching that and sharing it. So please tell your friends and family members. Also share this with your children. We'd love to get their thoughts on what they like as play, or your neighbors' children as well. So any further thoughts? Yes.
I have one last thought for you. And it was predicated off of the comment about the blackberries. And this is Todd Rao commenting again. I know we've named that Blackberry Park, and we all make blackberry pie, and we all enjoy picking the blackberries, but they really are kind of a nemesis. And maybe we could just have a good acknowledgement to the golden blackberry that's on the sign, or the,
Over our backyard.
yeah, yeah, pass those out for everyone. But they're difficult to maintain. I think they're going to encroach on the park. I think that quite frankly, I would assume that was a nod by y'all to do a respectful acknowledgement to the energy in the community. And I think we talked about that early on in our first conversations, 5 years ago even. But they probably should go and find a way to incorporate a blackberry in something. Maybe it's you find the golden blackberry inside the beaver den, or it's just something that you just reminisce of the people that spent the energy to do it, and hide it somewhere and call it blackberries. But bye blackberries.
Yeah.
We'll have a
bye.
bye blackberry.
I love
Good
the
riddance.
homage to the golden blackberry. That's
I hide the blackberry somewhere. Let someone go and find it, and let them talk about it. Let them tell the story. Let it become the folklore.
The kids would love it. Little blackberry statue.
Yeah. All right.
I-
I'm glad.
I
I'm
res-
glad we can end on laughter at least.
Oh yeah, no, that's great. And we got another comment that says, "We'll miss the blackberries. Love the golden blackberry." So I think there's
Very
support
good.
for your
Better
idea.
than a golden
here.
acorn, even.
Oh.
Ooh.
It's like
But
it's
with
like
that-
the hidden Mickeys throughout Disneyland. We could have a hidden blackberry. Right.
Brilliant, Jeff.
I love
Brilliant.
Well, I
Love it.
think with that question I would have, is there any desire to keep any gardening space for the community here at this park for other berries that might be edible, blueberries or something? Is there any desire from the community for that?
Not really. Not on my part.
All those in favor say no.
No.
Hey Jen, this is Jeff. If I could just
Yeah.
say a few words as we wrap this up.
Please.
Thank you so much, Jennifer, Autumn for helping host, Christian, Amelia, Deb, and the Methuen team. Thank you, and community. Thank you a ton. Please share the news of the online survey with your neighbors. I know Jennifer and I had the chance, and you're right, Todd, it was probably 4 or 5 years ago. I think summer of 2017 when this was transferred to the city, we had a barbecue out there, and the respect, the time, the energy that you all put into making this your park when it was really nothing as county space. We want to be really careful with that legacy. And as the city's now stewards of this, I think getting your feedback, making sure it's the public space that you all want it to be and that community wants to be for the next 20, 30, 40, 50 years is really, really important. So appreciate the discussion. Exciting to kind of dream, and love the creativity of the neighborhood. So thank you a ton.
Just wanted to quick touch on next steps after we do the online survey. What we'll do is we'll take all the feedback given, work together to try and come up with one final concept. Not sure if we'll do a workshop or just an online survey for feedback, but I do have everyone's contact information. We'll certainly let you know how we want to get your feedback on that final design before we move into final construction documents and so on, because it is our goal to perhaps start work on this project yet this year. We do have a permitting process we need to go through, so trying to hone in on the design is going to be really important for us. But like I said, construction this fall, and then also check out the website. My contact information's there. I think a lot of you have my email as well. Please, if you have any thoughts, comments, concerns, always feel free to reach out. But keep engaged on the webpage there. The link to the online survey will be put on this webpage. So please feel free to go there. And thank you all very, very much for your feedback and participation again. This has just been great. We look forward to working with you all and making this a reality. So, any other words?
Thank you,
that,
Jennifer.
We have 1 minute. I'm going to let y'all go. Have a great evening, and please keep in touch. We look forward to your engagement.
Blackberry
All right,
Cobbler.
everybody.
Good night.
Thanks, everyone.